Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Aramits bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead-making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Aramits.
Live from the Den of the Puppies of the Apocalypse, the Bunny Pen in Ottawa, Canada, and Melbourne Down Under, it's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show. We are here tonight. We're going to have Michaell Jordan on the show. He's up in Wyoming, and he makes medical meads, including some with cannabis in them. If you were at the if you were at the AMA Mead Conference the first year, so that was 2 years ago, he spoke that day and actually shared some of his meads. So it was interesting, and it definitely had an effect. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does and how he does it. And, we'll talk to him about that tonight. If you want to, listen more to us, you can obviously catch us live at gotmead.com. Just click Got Mead Live Radio Show, and the player's right there. It's live and we are, and it plays the most recent show when we're not. If you're mobile, or you just care to listen later while you're cleaning the house or making a batch of mead, then check us out on Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, or Stitcher. We are on all those places. Just search Got Mead Live. We got replays back to the beginning of the show on all those, as well as on gotmead.com. So go check it out. You can find us online at, obviously, gotmead.com, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/gotmead, and facebook.com/groups/gotmead is our main Facebook group. If you want to catch us on Twitter, and I'm usually watching the feed during the show, so if you have questions, you can toss them up there if you're on Twitter. Tweet us at GotMeadNow. And, we'll check it out. If you want to send us questions or ideas of who you'd like to have on the show, because, hey, we do this for you guys, you can just go to gotmead.com, put your mouse over Got Mead Live Radio Show. There'll be a drop-down. Select the drop-down. That'll take you to a question page where you can fill out a form, name and email and info, and tell us what your questions are or who you want to hear from. And, of course, if Skype is working, you can call us at 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. So what are we drinking tonight?
Well, I've still got that bottle of Ryan's Boucher that I'm enjoying quite nicely, and get the hell out of there, you fruit fly.
Yeah, you gotta drink that in stages. That stuff will mess you up.
Oh, no, I'm only going one glass at a time because I got to work tonight.
Oh, gosh, yeah. What about you, Hamish? You said something earlier about too much whiskey?
That was last night. Yeah, the Whiskey and Almond. It's a wonderful bar, and
oh dear.
Yeah, business drinks. What can I say? Anyway, this morning I'm actually having a go at a thistle brew. It's a lemon myrtle.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one.
It really did you. I didn't think we had it when you were here.
I think that was one of the ones that she sent the bitty bottles when you came over.
No. This is the new one, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh, then I haven't had that one. Okay.
Yeah, it's that lemon myrtle that you loved the flavor of a lot, but it's very her signature honey with the butterscotch and caramel and stuff in it, but
You there, Hamish?
Yes, I am. Sorry, my Bluetooth just had conniptions. It's just come back.
Suddenly he just went, and we're gone.
At least it tells me in my headphones that it's lost. So I was like, I didn't just keep talking. But yeah, so the butterscotch and caramel in there, honey, but the lemon myrtle really cuts the usual sweetness that she has. So it's quite a lot drier than expected, with this really pungent lemon on the nose. It's not it sort of tastes like a really strong lemon, but there's no big flavor of that you'd expect from the lemon rind, that old sort of rindy kind of flavor that you can often get from a big, strong lemon wine, because it's not actual lemons. And yeah, then that when you finally get used to this really big lemon burst, it sort of makes you think more of a lemon meringue pie or a tart a bit. And yeah, I think the herb has some bitterness which cuts the sugar a little bit. It's quite possibly one of the best I've ever had from Thistle.
Nice. Is it sweet, or is she going for semi on this one?
I don't think she really knows how to do anything but sweet, but the herbs have cut the sweetness a lot. So it is still big and thick and sweet, but the myrtle seems to have really cut the apparent sweetness quite a bit. So it seems a lot drier than what you used to from her.
That makes sense. Yeah, I still have some of the lemon myrtle chocolate that I picked up at the chocolate shop that we went to. Oh my God. That and some cherry ripes.
Yeah.
I'm like one little cherry ripe at a time.
Savoring them.
But no freeze-dried strawberries.
No, I wish I got a couple bags of those. Oh my God, I saw you post the empty bag the other day. I was like, oh, those were so good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, we were all noshing on those. They were fantastic. Well, I'm still I'm too lazy to go down in the cellar, so I went to the cases that are sitting upstairs that have not yet been schlepped down to the cellar and dug through my Bee Nectar box and pulled out a bottle of Necromangicon, which is one of my all-time favorite meads. I love this stuff. It's basically like a mango sizer, and it's so good. It's light and refreshing. There's lots of the mango sweetness with that tartness behind. And it's fizzy and light and really clean. So I mean, this is one of the meads. It's a go-to for me in the summer when I'm drinking mead. I don't like big, heavy meads in the summertime. It's got to be something light and clean, and this one totally fits the bill. It's still one of my all-time favorites. Even though I'm more of a berry girl, this one has rapidly risen in my sights. So.
Well, mangoes are kind of awesome.
Mangoes are kind of awesome.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
And just for anyone catching up on the show from Australia, we've had a daylight savings change. So we will be temporarily for the next couple of weeks at 12 o'clock. But the big advantage for me is the sun is already past the yard arm, so I'm starting with a drink right now.
There you go. Yeah, nice. And then in a couple of weeks we go off daylight savings time, so it'll go back.
That pushes it to 1 p.m.
Yeah,
no, it pushes it further.
Let me see. It's spring forward, fall back, so we roll back an hour. Here, So I'm not sure what that does. I get all messed up for what that does between us and you.
It pushes it further up to 1 p.m. The show will be at 1 p.m. in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
As long as everybody knows that.
Yeah. If I say it enough, we'll be all right.
Yeah. I'll have to add that onto the show notes between now and when we switch over, and then update it with the new stuff when we go to the thing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get Michael in here.
Cool.
Yeah. AJ, do you need me to mute you so you can do the dance? For those of you that are wondering, we do the FDF dance before the show. Hey, Michael, welcome to the show.
Hi, Vicky. Thanks for having me come and talk a little bit.
Yeah, no worries, man. We were just talking about how we didn't do our usual avert technological error dance before the show like we usually do.
Oh, so hopefully we don't have any cutouts.
Pretty much, yeah, that's the plan. And we usually do this little song and dance thing beforehand, and it's become kind of a ritual because it's the only thing.
It chases the gremlins away.
Chases the gremlins away, yeah.
Everybody needs to have a little bit of technical, an IT gremlin deferral.
Pretty much, yeah. So welcome back. And we had you on, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years? Something like that. It was a while back.
Yeah, it was about a year ago. We talked about 1 gallon batches, and
Yep.
That was like how I really got going, was 1 gallon batches of crazy meads.
Crazy's always fun. I like weird amounts. You can come up with some good stuff.
Well, some of them been really entertaining, and some of them, I burn a lot of batches, but it's easy to burn a batch when you're a beekeeper because you're able to get a honey pretty regularly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, for those who may not have heard you the last time you were on, give us a little bit of background on you and, and what you're doing with honey and mead, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, sounds good. Well, my name is Michaell Jordan, and I work for a company called AB Friendly Company out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And we're a youth advocate beekeeping firm, and we teach beekeeping to orphanages and youth education all over the world. Right now, we've developed a program that's been introduced into school systems. We teach beekeeping to high school kids as a APS level so they can come out and become inspectors. With this, I got into beekeeping originally from my family. That I traced my history back. We've been making mead since about 908 AD, when the Vikings landed on the halls of Galway there in the ship's wreck. We fought off the Vikings and found out that they were moving their bee colonies, and we kept them. And since then, our family's made mead. And I'd say about 1996, I made my first batch, and just kept on going from there and made small batch meads. And I've tried
Yeah, I think. I take it you got my text.
Finding a new.
Yes, so much better. Thank you. You were really echoey. You sounded like you were in a big warehouse or something, an empty Costco.
Yeah, well, I'm actually I am in a warehouse. We're moving honey. It's the end of the year, and we're moving honey. That's yeah. So I am in a big warehouse actually.
Yeah, well, you sounded like you were. So thank you for. Yeah, speaker really doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
All right,
no,
so
we were.
You were saying.
Well, I started making lots of different meads and trying out-of-the-box techniques of mead making that you read about, Marmels and Mellis and Braggots and stuff. And I was looking at the oddity of like we're doing honey right now, and I'm going to take about 15 to 20 pounds of this, and then my mom's baked 2 strawberry rhubarb pies, and we're gonna grind those all up and mix it with the honey, and we're gonna make a rhubarb strawberry pie mead and use original rhubarb strawberry pie as the base mix for it. Yeah, so I mean, I try to do some oddity things, and I think that's kind of where it's got me to where I am now. Is that I'm basically about the only guy that people reach out to about cannabinoid meads and how to make medication meads, and that's like what I've been doing for the last about 6 years now. As we've developed a way to use the Mellis and stuff, and reading back old literature of how yarrow and heather and stuff is used more of a medication back in the day than it was for a flamboyant, awesome drink. I mean, I'm drinking right now a caramelized honey. We used a caramelized clover honey and some macadamia nuts and some sea salt and little caramel chews. And made a salted caramel and macadamia nut that I'm drinking right now. That's using Candies and boiling some honey for caramelization and stuff. So
fun. I like
little different stuff that we try to do.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. I love macadamia nuts, and I haven't played with them in meads. I've seen other people talking about them, but I've not played with nuts a lot in meads. So
nuts are the oils and the stuff that you gotta, when you go to rack, sometimes you have oil on the top and then you have your must at the bottom, so it's that fine layer in between that you try to get when you go for the clarification. But when you're a hobby brew keeper, even a little bit of yeast in your diet's good.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I've had to rack out when I made a rotamel. That I had a giant bag of food grade rose petals, and there was this slick like an oil slick, from the rose oil across the top of it, and
Hmm.
basically had to do the same thing, had to rack out from underneath it above the yeast and below the slick and pull everything, as much of the middle as you could.
Yeah, as much as you can. I lose. I didn't realize how much oil comes out of some nuts. Peanuts has a lot
Yeah.
of oil, a lot more than I was expecting
Are
when we
you,
first did like a peanut butter and jelly.
yeah, are you using them raw, or are you roasting, or what's your process?
Well, we've tried 3 different ways. We smoked the nuts and then ran them after they've been smoked through a juicing machine and extracted any liquid that we could get out of the nuts, which was very little at the time, but we got a smoky nut flavor, which is the oils. And then when you boil the honey, I'm able to infuse the oil with the honey, breaking down the oil concentrate. That's kind of like how we do the CBDs, do the dial box method and heat it and infuse the peanut with the honey. The other time we did it, we just grind it all up and we did like a hop drop. And we didn't get as much flavor from that. And then the next time we did, we boiled the peanuts with the water,
Mm-hmm.
boiled the peanuts with the honey, and mixed them all together. And then we got a really good flavor, but that's when we had the high oil content on the top of the mead.
Okay.
Yeah.
You boiled the honey and the peanuts together?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
interesting.
do a lot of that. I boil my honey and I add a lot of when I do my boil for caramelization, I add a lot of stuff to it sometimes to flavor the honeys and stuff as I bring them out. Like
So
when I boil honey, sometimes I'll drop some Tootsie Rolls in it and I'll caramelize the Tootsie Rolls in with honey and stuff like that. Just to get some more of the flavors and stuff out of what I'm adding.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. I was just, thinking in terms of, the current don't boil the honey. For the longest time when I first started making mead, the to boil or not to boil conversation was possibly the biggest question.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's what about your nutrients and do raisins count? But then it was, then it was to boil or not to
You
boil.
said the R word.
Yeah, I know, right? Was the big question.
They're not
and
bad.
yeah.
They're just not nutrients.
Have you ever tried doing like a low temperature infuse? Like over time?
Well, that's more of a tincture method, I feel. And
Yeah.
that's like if you're going to do like a second pitch or something, you can add essence of herbs and stuff to brighten the load. When you brighten the load of florals and what's in it, usually you have my meads sit at about anywhere from an average of 17 to 23%. I use a high champagne yeast, and usually when I get to that high, I'm able to let some herbs sit for the year of aging, and then it tinctures and pulls stuff out of them.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm using boiled honey, I'm only using what we call like a half batch. So like if you're using a gallon, doing a 1 gallon batch, and you're using 3 pounds of honey, 1.5 pounds of that may be caramelized.
Okay.
The other 1.5 pounds is of raw honey that we add when the temperatures of the honey reach about under 120 degrees.
Okay.
At 120 degrees,
Yeah,
120 degrees and less, when you
Uh-huh.
add the raw honey, it still will mix together, but we're not destroying the enzymes in the honey because we're less than the pasteurization level.
Yeah, that was my
So I
wondering was if you're boiling, but you're not boiling to boil, you're boiling to caramelize, which is different. And so while you're caramelizing, you're also extracting those flavor profiles that you're looking for from the other things. Is that right?
correct. And
Ah,
yeah, it was
okay.
like when we were when we came to the MMA event and showed how we did Sleepy Time.
Mm-hmm.
We did boil some raw honey,
It works that way too.
and then we did the infusion and stuff so we did the infusion with the boiled honey to add the cannabinoid, but then we added the raw honey of the manuka because we wanted all the manuka value for the stomach and stuff that we were looking for. The Sleepy Time medicated meat was specifically made for digestive and sleeping aid to help people with Parkinson's disease and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
we do infusions with high heat, but we always try to use the medication of the honeys towards the end with the raw amount.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Manuka. We've actually had that conversation with a couple of other people, and Hamish and I talked about it a good bit while I was in Australia. And I, my experience with Manuka is that, yes, I understand that it has medicinal qualities, but man, it's got a weird taste as a honey.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
very
it's I
menthol.
think it smells bad too.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, good. I wanted to be as friend, as civil as I could be about it. But yeah, this stuff's just nasty. So how do you get it so that it doesn't, like make your mead taste like, well, medicine,
I think that's the mazer art. Is that when you make like a good stone fruit cherry, I would say the majority of people that make one, it's cough syrup taste.
Yeah.
And I think after playing with it and learning how to juice some of it, how to back flavor towards the end of your second pitch with live cherries, and people are using more dehydrated fruit. It's losing that cough medicine taste, but that's the mazer in you. That's I think that has to be worth working with it. And we all know that meads are to taste. That something that tastes elegant to me as a dry mead does not taste to someone that likes a good sweet table wine. So I think it has to do with flavoring as well. When we use a lot of stuff like gingers and thyme and echinacea, those taste those taste taste earthy. That's the only way. It's like making a dandelion mead. You definitely have an earthy taste with all that stuff. And I think it's about how you blend it out and then get your ratios correctly to get what you want medically, as well as you want for flavor, as robust alcohol and good time drink.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a matter of what you like and don't like too. I mean, judging and competitions aside, personal taste is what really is, I think, the end, because there's stuff I
Of
like that
course.
that would blow at a competition, but I like it. I don't really care. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I drink, and most of the stuff I drink is what we call the bottom of the batch. Like I said, I'm a yeast guy. I like the enzymes in my stomach for the yeast culture and stuff, and so a little cloudy mead to me is a little bit of sky and rain. So it's everybody likes rain, but no one likes the mud.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
I drink a little bit of the mud every once in a while, and everybody else gets to enjoy the rain.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I'm not averse to cloudy meads. I make a fair number of them myself that I'm too lazy to clear, and I just leave them that way because it's easy, not and because I'm not planning on entering it anywhere or really sharing it with people who are going to give me shit about it. So, you
Yeah,
know.
I think most people, when they're drinking your mead and you have a good product, I don't think they care how clear it is. I think they're looking for more of the taste. And to me, I like the reserve palate. The initial tastes are good, but I like when it sits there and after I've drank it and I'm getting residual come back in my mouth that man that I can't explain. Sometimes it's one thing to drink a s'mores chocolate mead, and then later on all of a sudden you go, you know what? I do taste the salt in there. They did throw salt in there, and I
Mm.
like that part of more than just drinking the meads. I go to a lot of house things. I just did a thing 2 days ago where we made mead for a football player in Denver that he's
Hmm.
having an event and he's having some people over. So he had us make a mead for him, and it is to taste because we had to change the recipe a little bit because he wanted it sweeter than what my taste was. He wanted a little more sweetness in it, and not so much alcohol. So we lowered the alcohol content, crashing it earlier and letting the sweetness stay. So it's all to taste and stuff like that. That's totally what some people like. So I'm a cloudy guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like some people like those cloudy yeasty beers. Personally, I'm not a big fan of super yeasty beers, but that's what, I like other stuff. So, it's yeah, it's a personal choice thing. We got like a couple of people on well, actually Hamish and Jaden, you've probably seen Jaden online. Um are asking they're commenting that gosh, wouldn't it be great to have a mead that was good for digestive trouble. And we're kind of jumping ahead here, but I'm going to ask anyway. He says he has digestive trouble, Jaden does, and would like to know your method of decarb and add in. Is it sort of like a bochet in a brew bag, or is it keef or extract? Or is it kiff? I don't know. I never know.
So when you're doing stuff with we'll go with something for your stomach and degassing. After we do clarification, a lot of people are doing like a vacuum degas and pulling air up and through and getting the high residual degas. We're using old time centrifuge that basically the honey extractor that we use, that when we're done and we're clarified before we bottle, we dump the mead directly into a centrifuge, spinning it and mixing all the air and all the stuff out of it and kind of like getting everything out of it that we can before bottling it. And then if you bottle it, if some people like to, I haven't got it down yet. Like I said, it's still hobbyist background, but forced carbonation and stuff, I think that stuff helps with digestive. And a lot of stuff with digestive, I think, has to do with the types of honey that you use.
Mm-hmm.
I think of a lot of the darker honeys have a lot more positive things for digestive than I think the lighter honeys do. And that's just my personal feeling. I don't know anything more than that. When we make meads, I think that with the yeast content, with the darker honeys and stuff, I'm not sure what the enzymes in that for colorization, but the more harder syrupy it is, the more it is on your stomach, I feel. And the other thing is that when we do medicated meads, a lot of the stuff that we use for stomach and digestion has a lot of peppermint in it. So we use a lot of peppermint and a lot of chamomile in some of those medicated meads that sit better in the stomach and are used in the second pitch for the tincturization to get most of those chemicals and stuff out of the chamomile and the peppermint.
Okay.
So hopefully that kind of answers this question on that of like degassing to get the bubbles out so it's not so hard on your stomach, and then kind of like what we add for a medication for stomach stuff.
Do you do ginger for digestion as well?
Well, ginger is always good for digestive, but I think it's to taste. Ginger,
Fair.
I think, can be very, very harsh. If you I think people, when you get a lot of ginger taste and stuff, to me, I think it's too much. And
I'm a ginger
that's
head,
just
so I
me,
like
though.
that.
I've kind of found it depends on how you treat the ginger. Like
Yeah.
just putting a great bunch of grated ginger in a hops bag, I find gives you a much harsher taste than if you like shred your ginger and then boil it and let it cool.
I make it. Yeah.
I find that's a much. I find the ginger
you
tea
think
method
because
for me works a lot better.
Yeah.
So do you feel that because it's in a bag and it gets centered lower in the fermentation, that it releases more of the glycol from the ginger than when it does when it sits on a top tea?
I don't know whether that's got anything to do with it. I think it may have more to do with the temperature. Because if you're making a hot ginger tea, you're effectively boiling it, even if you're not quite coming to the boil, it's close enough. So you're cooking it. It's sort of the difference between like raw garlic and cooked garlic. I know which one leaves me with worse breath.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and raw garlic, as much as I like garlic, raw garlic leaves me with heartburn and other things, whereas cooked garlic doesn't. So, I think there's some chemical changes that go on there. But I'm with you, AJ, on with ginger. I infuse the ginger. I will take the ginger and basically make ginger tea and then use that in my mead so that it gives me more control. I feel like it gives me more control over how much gingerish notes I get, and it also, I feel, softens the edges a lot.
When you're drinking ginger in your mead, do you feel that you're well, let's just face it, do you feel like that when you're done drinking it and stuff that you go to the bathroom earlier?
That's a really good question. I don't know that I've ever paid attention to that.
No, I definitely have not.
Yeah.
Alcohol makes me have to go to the washroom earlier regardless of ginger, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to say, I don't know if it's the ginger or the alcohol, to be honest. But, yeah, when I'm drinking...
I just wonder, those are just questions that we ask people. Those are questions we ask people, like, does a coffee mead really give you more of a diuretic? These are,
Yeah.
as a person that's looking for medication needs, I'm going back from history when I read the books from my lore. They talked about, ginseng, and they talked about echinacea and stuff, that they drank it to help boost vitamin C so they wouldn't get scurvy on the ocean, because it kept longer and it kept them with vitamin C inside their stomach. And then they drank a different mix and stuff, that when they hit the island and the beach, that way they were boosting their immune system. That way if there's something on there, they wouldn't catch it so immediately, then they could contain and quarantine people that were getting sick. So that way they could make different medications with the mead, because alcohol thinned the blood. It was able to get the medications directly into the system. Mellis, that's what they were for. Or Magellans, or whatever anybody wants to call them, a mellis. That's what I call it. But it's all spices and herbs. And I think when you infuse them with tinctures, and when they come out through fermentation, you get a vast variety of medical essence from them, more than you do drinking grog. So
yeah, I would have to agree with that. I don't know. I've noticed, and you were talking about alcoholic beverages as a health aid, or in the case of this as a digestive. The recipes that I studied when I was still doing 16th century living history, most of them were geared towards being digestives, and were designed to be drunk after the meal. So that
after the meal,
after
that's
the
what
meal,
mostly everything I read too.
Yeah, and in fact, I've got one recipe, and it's not a mead, but was touted as a digestive by the court of Henry VIII. So early 1500s, and it was basically it was a mulled wine. So he took a red wine and sweetened it, and then added ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. And and then would let it sit on those spices like overnight, and then strain everything off the spices. And he used this as a digestive. And of course, if you've looked at Henry VIII at all, the man liked to eat, and was pretty good at it. So the studies the recountings that I have read were that he would eat to excess. So like almost like a Roman style of eat till you barf kind of thing. And
gorge yourself.
yeah, like a vomitorium kind of thing, only he had this digestive wine. And then Queen Elizabeth the First, who, late 1500s, was most of the stuff that I found that were in that time frame had a lot of the herbs that you mentioned earlier. Plus things like elderflower and stuff like that, and again, they were designed to be drunk after the meal. And they didn't seem to put a lot of focus on, is it going to taste good?
Yeah, see, that's a lot of stuff. When I started doing this, I have some pages and stuff that talk about using, heather flower and using elderberry flowers, and those are called there's your earth sugars, right? Like any ginger's an earth sugar, sugar beets, an earth sugar. So things that were growing in the ground, carrots, daikon radishes and stuff, they all carry an earth sugar. You have your wind sugars, right, which are your clovers, your buckwheat and stuff like that. And then you had what they called the fruits of the land sugars, and those are all your berries and stuff. And how I read it when I was looking at this is that a berry has a flower. The flower has a different nutrients than the seed of the plant. So an apple is different than the seed of itself, and its flower is different than the apple itself as well as the seed. So each one of those can be combined and used in different things. The seed of the apple is a poison. The fruit of the apple is lush and beautiful, and the flower of blossom of the flower is more medical. And that's kind of like how I was reading kind of the notes and stuff from my family, is basically how they described it. And each one of those has a different medical value. So juicing certain things extracts different things. Heat extract different things.
Mm-hmm.
Letting things sit out and dry out accumulates dust and stuff, and they, and enzymes. It's like a cheese that's eaten by a worm. It's illegal in the United States, but it's exotic to have a cheese that's eaten by a maggot or something. So I mean,
that's like that coffee that's pooped out by cats. It's like, no, that's okay.
Correct.
Civet coffee.
Correct. Right. There's always some exotic something that people are trying to do and see what it does, because extraction of what you're looking for comes in, like honey's made from bee vomit being passed from bee to bee to bee to bee to bee. So I mean, it's not like just processing it. You're drinking vomit that's been passed from vomit. And I think that's even kind of like how my Viking era and how my North Atlantic people learned how to do fermentation, is when they made the mead, they drank it to taste it, to see kind of what it tasted. And they passed it and spit it back and forth, and that caused the enzymes for fermentation, as well as put the enzymes of like whatever sickness was in the area. Everybody condensed it then, and you all had the immunity for it. And that was all done by what they call a shashan, which was you drank and you spit it back in the cup and passed it throughout the community, and everybody got the same thing, and then they dumped it back into the batch, and that started fermentation.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's old. I don't know if you want to be spitting in your mead to get it started or not now.
Yeah,
use a little
for anyone else to drink.
Yeah.
A little ferment O does just fine for me.
Can you imagine
not that I tell anyone anyway.
The recipe description, and then I spit in it. It's like, okie dokie then.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Gotta go.
I'm gonna sign a waiver for that one.
Yeah, right.
You sign a waiver.
but you're right. I mean, they did that kind of thing. A lot of the 16th century recipes, they talked about they would set the whole thing up in an open wooden barrel. So basically, just a big wooden tub, like a bathtub. And they'd make it in that, and it would be wide open to whatever. And these were people who dumped their sewage in the streets. So God knows, what kind of effluvia was just just in the air and everything. And the only way they cover it is if it was if it was summertime and there were maybe flies around. But that was only because they didn't want to pick dead flies out of their mead. So it wasn't a lot of concern there.
That goes with Now that goes with the whole thing. Have you noticed when you go to a lot of meaderies, they're still doing that?
There are some.
A lot of big meaderies their mead, they've got a 600-gallon stainless steel thing, and they're doing 200 to 300 gallons in it. So the volumetric space from the top and the bottom is very big and open. And they're using what they call floating lids. I've seen a lot of floating lids.
Yeah, the floating lids are popular. I've seen those in a lot of places, yeah.
Yeah, those are getting a lot bigger. And, that has to do with the ability of movement and airflow. And I don't think people are getting it, that basically you're almost getting back to the open fermentation, that you guys are just leaving volume and space. And when you go to degas, you're introducing more stuff.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So, okay, I'm curious, you mentioned earlier, and we're going to swing back around here, so we're all over the place tonight, but that you guys are teaching kids beekeeping. What are you teaching them?
I've developed a program that teaches them the introduction all the way. It's developed for like school curriculum, that the woodworking department builds the beehives. The art department paints them. The music department writes the jingle. The media department writes the commercials. The entomology department and science and botany department do the testing on the plants, the bugs and everything. And then I've got a group of kids that go to each one of those classes, describe why we want them painted these colors, why the wood's made out of cedar, and why we're looking for mites and we use sugar. And then those kids come back and we have the English department write down the documentation of how it all worked out. And then we work with the accounting department on how much it costs for us to make and produce product. So we're teaching kids a business and an industry in beekeeping. And some of them are able to come out and take the University of Montana State's beekeeping course and test out of it and hopefully become future apiary inspectors here in the United States.
Nice. That's wonderful that you're teaching kids, not just about beekeeping, but so that they can turn that skill set into something that helps support honey in America, which, is kind of important.
We won't get into that. I'm big against public school.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We used
There's a
to,
lot of people that feel
well,
that way.
I just think that, when Benjamin Franklin, his family sold him to a printing press, the gentleman learned to trade, and he took that trade to make libraries, the first newspaper, the documents of independence for our state. He learned to trade and became very, very valuable. We don't teach kids trades anymore. We don't do the edge value where you educate, demonstrate, go for it, and evaluate. We just tell kids, this is it, and you figure it out. And with technology how it is now, kids don't want to figure it out. They just want to look it up, and we're not getting kids out there to do it. And this program of teaching beekeeping at the school and the orphanages and 4-H groups, and you can do this at Boy Scouts. It teaches them everything. You could develop the same program for chickens. What do your chickens cost? How do you incubate them? How do you hatch them? How do we test them? How do we clean them? Right? It's a whole system. When it's all done, what did it cost us to do it? And what did we sell our eggs for? And right, it shows what are you worth? What's your time really worth in what you do? Right? I mean, I make mead as a hobby, but I tell you, when you become a commercial mead maker, your time's worth money when people are enjoying your product. So you have to figure out what your time's worth. I think this is a basic ground set of, when we do this, what's your time worth and what's the product you're producing, and do you like it? Because if you don't like it, quit your job. Don't work at a job you don't like.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing I'm trying to teach in one aspect.
I love that they're learning not just about the fun parts, like managing the bees themselves, but about all of the other background stuff that goes into producing everything that you need in order to support those bees so that they can make that honey and and do what they're supposed to be doing and pollinate, because that's kind of important too. So I think that's a really good approach. I've always been a big fan of the hands-on. That's
Thank
that's
you
the
very
way I
much.
learn best, is by doing. So for me, that's a big important thing.
Yeah, kids are awesome. They're our future, and if you just get one out of 100 that's inspired, he's the one that finds out how to destroy Varroa destructor. He's the one that finds out that, if we added this type of fertilizer instead of this, the nectar flow in clover is 100 times better. That's I just need one, right? If I can just inspire one, we can solve problems. I don't need a whole bunch of people working on it. I just need one that's motivated to solve the problems.
Yeah. So for your hives, are your bees just kind of hanging out and pulling out whatever's in the area where you have them, or are you shooting for varietals? Are you putting them somewhere?
We do a couple different things. I have a group of bees that we do for pollination, and they're basically for splits and for pollination for trucking. That we hit the almond fields, and then we hit Texas for cucumbers and melons, and then we hit the sunflower fields in South Dakota. And you do get some residual honey from those things, but they're mostly for pollination. Now, the ones we do for honey, we manage 275 beehives strictly for honey flow. And I have a saffron field, I have a clover field, and then I have a basin of just wildflowers of northern Rocky Mountain wildflowers that we finish them off towards the end of the year. Whatever's out there, we try to get them. But most of ours is most of our honey, when it's tested at the University of Colorado's source there at the university, it's mostly coming up clover and saffron.
Oh, okay, cool. Saffron, traditional like actual saffron, or was it Mexican saffron?
It's Mexican saffron.
Okay.
It's basically it's almost like a clover. No, it's too cold, and it would be too much of a value to let it go to seed.
Yeah, true.
Right, in order to get the pollination to make the honey.
Yeah, like $1.
Yeah, right. So yeah, we use the Mexican, and it's a huge floral, beautiful color honey. It's almost like looking at when you get like fireweed honey.
Uh-huh.
So it's it's very pretty, very nice tasting. Has a good floral smell to it, and it produces big, and it makes a good cutting for the area up here for people that have horses.
Okay. I never thought of horses for it, but then I don't have saffron here, so.
Well, you try to diversify, right? We produce honey, but the byproduct's wax, right? So you try to diversify everything that you do. When you make mead, you have a residual of must. Either you use the must to redo another batch to see how long it goes before you lose the essence of what the yeast does because it's changed so much, or you use that yeast and we put it on sheets with apple butter and then turn around and feed it to the chickens. So old stuff like apple butter and jams and stuff, we mix that with that and feed it to the chickens for a good concentrate form.
Okay.
So it makes like a hard cake patty for them with a little bit of nutrients in it and stuff for them.
Interesting.
And you try to use everything as much as you can.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Why waste stuff if there's something or somebody that will eat it?
Yeah, totally. I work with a brewing company here, and when they brew all their beer, I pick up their grain, and we're using it for hugu culture, so that way we can grow more product for the bees to use.
Yeah.
So it starts at the base. You gotta, right? That's my whole thing. Is I learned permaculture to grow the best plants. I learned beekeeping to pollinate them and get the best nectar, and then I learned how to get that nectar into the best honeys to make my mead.
There
And
you go.
I spent a lot of time doing that, but I'm not a professional mead maker, but I'm good enough to where I can throw a program and I can get people drunk, or I can help people out medically. That I feel that some of the stuff we put out does help people medically. I mean, you can even testify for some of the work that we do. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's just a matter of what.
it worked.
Yeah, well, it's a matter of what's doing right now. We have some stuff we're getting ready to send to Oregon State, and we're going to send it here to Colorado. They're going to run it through a gas chromatograph to see exactly how much CBD
cool
and
toys.
stuff in it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was something that a lot of people ask us, like, well, how do you know the concentrates and stuff? Well, we're just doing old school stuff, and it's guinea pig trial and error for the last 6 years of working with people and stuff of how we're doing it. And now it's come to the time where you got to spend a little bit of money and send it to a place, and they'll run it through a gas chromatograph machine and give you a spectrum of everything that's in it. And that way we can get a good analysis of what medically is definitely in those meads that we're serving people.
I want to pull you back to ginger for a little bit. I've seen on Facebook recently somebody had a bottle of ginger juice, which I didn't even know existed, ginger juice. Would you use that in a mead? And how would you use it in a mead if you're going to?
If I was going to use a ginger juice, I'd have to taste it. I've never seen ginger juice either. And
If you run ginger through a juicer, it's very, very potent. Trust me.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'd almost be like how you'd use drabs, right? That if you were using it, if you're using, a quarter ounce, I guess, of ginger in a 5-gallon batch, I guess you'd have to see like what that would juice out to. Because I mean, that'd be the only way I would know that, and that'd kind of give me a baseline that if I'm using an ounce of ginger, it juices out and gives me 17 eyedropper drops of juice. I mean, that's just an example. I don't know. And I guess make one batch with the ginger and then make one batch with the juiced ginger and just see how much more concentrate that stuff is. Because I'm sure after you juice it and make the ginger juice, I'm sure it's just extremely, extremely incredible.
Yeah.
Well, the only other. Oh, sorry. Yep.
No, I just there was a punch you in the face ginger tonic recipe that I followed vaguely for on the Got Mead website many years ago, and I used a pound of ginger for a 1-gallon batch, and that was pretty freaking potent. Now I didn't have a juicer, but the person who had the original recipe used a gallon of ginger juice in a 5-gallon batch.
Holy crap!
Well, there's a reason she called it punch you in the face ginger tonic.
Yeah.
And
I guess
she
they
made
were
it
using that for a baseline for Moscow mules or something.
Well, no, actually, because she herself can't drink much alcohol, she made it at about 2% so she could have some too. So it was literally as a tonic for, I think it was a hangover remedy for all of her friends who'd been drinking all of her regular meads the night before.
Well, serves the purpose, I guess. I just wonder whether the removing the fiber has any advantage in. Would the fiber ever add an off flavor or anything like that? Like, is there any real advantage to juicing it, or just shredding it and putting it in a tape do just the same?
when you juice apples, you get more flavor and stuff from the apples than you do just sticking the fruit in.
Okay.
If you're diluting, there's a lot of stuff there that's going through my head. Dilution ratio comes through with water. The more water you got to add, the more diluted some of the product gets. When you juice stuff, you get more of the product in it than you do with water. For dilution ratio, that's a bigger question, probably than I'm skilled to answer. I usually use raw product. So I usually juice most of my stuff, and I put it in, and then in my secondaries is if I'm looking for, if I'm making blueberry pomegranate and I want the pomegranate to come out more, that's my secondary pitch, and I use raw fruit.
Okay.
Most of the time I start out my first fermentations with juice, and then my second parts are the raw product and not the juice. Does that make sense? When I do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah, I'm a big ginger head. I mean, I'm one of those people that likes the seriously burny ginger ale and stuff like that because yeah, and I've got a girlfriend who's as bad as I am, so together we're dangerous. But I eat candied ginger, like I could eat it all day long, no problem, love it. But
Oh, that's great with sushi.
oh my God, it's just
Yeah.
great.
Oh, yeah.
Period. Yeah, I just love this stuff.
Yeah.
God help me, don't.
I
put
just
it
steal
back
extra
in front
packets
me.
of it with. I steal extra packets of it and eat it after the sushi's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I buy
that's the
jars
purpose of it.
I buy jars of the pickled ginger just to have so I can eat it. I don't need. I mean, I love sushi. Don't get me wrong. I adore sushi, but if I don't have sushi, I'll take the pickled ginger.
Slicing it into wine vinegar actually works almost as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Just get a
that's
mandolin
where I
and
wanted
thin,
to-
slice it really thin.
That's where I wanted to go next. It's when we talk about ginger, you're eating like that. The intention with sushi is as a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
And I'm very keen to see what ginger would be like as a palate cleanser between tasting of meat.
Oh.
One way to find out, eh?
Yeah.
Let's see,
Experiment,
that's a good test.
Yeah, that is a good test. I like that. I like that idea.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I use it as a palate cleanser, but I also just like to eat it. So.
Yeah.
Well, here's a mead recipe that as he was talking, I looked up some through our notes. It uses turmeric, carrots, ginger, and lemons, right? And it is a digestive mead, right? And it says for 1 gallon, it says use 3 cups of carrot juice, 2 Meyer lemons, and a 1/4 cup of ginger,
Good Lord.
and 2 teaspoons of turmeric.
Oh my God.
And it says that's what it says. It's for digestive and inflammation in the stomach.
Yeah, that'd clean your pipes right out.
Well, I think it's, whatever you say about having a digestive addition, it's really going to depend on what your particular issue is. If you lack the enzymes, then you're going to want more of that. If you've got too much acid, you'll want something that's more basic. If you've got not enough acid, you'll want something that's more acidic. It's really difficult to say what's going to be a good digestive aid because it really depends on what's wrong with the digestion in question.
Yeah, good point.
I mean,
Correct.
you can sort of blanket statement saying ginger and mint and garlic and things like that are usually good for digestion, but I've had it happen where I've had an inflamed system where mint just burned for 3 days. So you can't just assume that the same thing's good for everybody, and you really got to. It really
Correct.
does behoove you to sort of figure out exactly what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Correct.
I've had.
And that's like when we do the medicated meads and stuff in Colorado. It's about what it does for you. Sometimes CBD oils and stuff don't help people.
Yeah, they don't
Right?
help me.
It was one of their last line of things that they were trying to look to find a cure for certain things that they have. Everybody's looking for the cure for cancer, right? And let's face it, until they find one, everybody's trying what they can.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, the use of cannabis stuff does make them feel better, makes them eat, gives them a better quality of life. Sometimes people that use CBD oil, like with Parkinson's disease and stuff, it does help them stop not stuttering. does. Even people's pets, they're using it now for pets. So
I saw that.
does it work
yeah.
all the time? I think it has to do with, we tell everybody that we make it for that you need to tell your doctor that you're going to be trying this. First and foremost. Some pills say no consumption of alcohol. So if you're already on medication, sometimes you can't use some of the stuff that we're talking about because it's already an alcohol. So we always tell everybody that we don't have a cure for anything, but we do have studied, and I talk about me and my father, that we have studied homeopath herbalism. And we're looking at using it in a different way. And that if you would like to try it, you buy all the material. We'll help you make it, and we'll watch you through the fermentation process. And then as we go, we think that you should regulate your amount, that you should only be taking 3 to 4 ounces at a time, documenting what it does, and if you see any change. Because the only way to see it is not to believe it as a placebo, but I want you to really test the barriers and see if it's doing anything for you. And that's how we're doing it. And that's we've gotten some great results, great feedbacks from it. But I definitely need to have the grass chromatograph done to show exactly what's in it, so people can know. Because, like, if mead has a nut allergy. I mean, if you're using nuts, you're gonna. So I mean, I can't say that it's going to help you, but I can say it is going to thin your blood. And if you're acceptable to turmeric or you're acceptable to elderflower and stuff, it's going to get into your system a lot more, and it's going to do a lot more for you.
Yeah, I wish they had found a way to manage the turmeric as a blood thinner, because damn sure I'd be off the meds they've got me on for the rest of my life. That was the first thing I did was go look for non-pill based ways to manage the tendency to have clots, and there's nothing reliable, sadly, except the pills. So
that's the problem. You can never be guaranteed how strong whatever you are is taking.
Unless you're doing it yourself,
there are
having it gas chromatographed,
or mass spec or whatever the heck. Unless you've got the analytical equipment, you can't really tell how much of whatever the ingredient is that is doing the good. You can never really be sure how much until you go into the testing, and I'm really glad that you guys are actually doing the testing with those.
It makes sense. I'm not surprised that you're doing it, though, because I know you're interested in, the medical aspects, and that's the only way to know.
Yeah, that's the only way I'm gonna know is to, and it takes money and it takes time, right? But when you make a good product, time, how I've got a lifetime to make the product correct. And, as she stated earlier, right, you don't know what's in it all the time. Floral changes year to year. Sometimes the elderflower might be really potent this year because of the water and the nutrients in the ground, because we had a fire last year and it gave us more nitrogen. And, that's the one thing that I love about mead more than I like about any type of other drink, is that you cannot always be exactly precise on how it's going to turn out, because I cannot produce the same honey every year or even the same season, depending on sunlight. We pulled honey from an eclipse just to see if it was doing something different. And, everything changes. So that's why I like mead so much, is that, man, to replicate it, a batch, the same every time, you're pretty incredible.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible. So, what are you doing mainly cannabis based meads for your medical meads, or are you doing some other things too?
Oh, well, we do all kinds of stuff. Like I said, the carrot, ginger, and turmeric one. We do a baseline of all different kinds of herbal meads. And as you said before, if you read some of the meads, they don't taste. I think a lot of things that have echinacea and stuff in it, I think that they have a really earthy taste, like drinking dandelion wine.
Well, elderflower is like that.
Some people aren't turned on to that.
Yeah, I don't like. There's a lot of people that like elderflower, and I'm like, yuck, no, I don't. I don't like the way it tastes. It tastes earthy to me in a way that I'm not like.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, see, it's all a matter of what you like. So yeah, now I liked your was it the Sleepy Mead that you did at the conference?
Yeah, that was the one we showed. That's the most predominant one that we make. The only thing that we didn't show about making it was we've advanced it now, and we do what we call an encapsulation infusion, where we take 1/8 of cannabis, put it directly in the honey, and we put it in a pressure cooker.
Oh.
We pressure cook the cannabis directly into the honey, and that way it does a chronic infusion with it, and it gives the honey the taste of cannabis as well.
Yeah.
So that way, when we're adding
Sorry.
Does it help you that the honey is got much higher boiling point? Does that help you extract the cannabis than maybe trying to extract it in boiling water? Does it work better in honey?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe that it due to the fact that the honey never goes into what we call I don't know what the guy tell me. There's a term for it. Water and syrup. Honey, even after heated and stuff, even any kind of liquid gel is still syrup, more than it would be considered a liquid. So when you're infusing and stuff, I think, and pulling it out at a lower temperature for longer times, you're encapsulating it more in the fat cells and the cannabinoid than in the honey than you would in water. We're doing it's called so we do all kinds of different stuff. We're doing what they call a green dragon extraction, and it's the use of boiling hemp that's been inoculated with nitrous, which traps the cannabinoid, and then when you boil it all out, and it leaves a syrup at the end, and that's pure cannabinoid syrup that's at the end of it. And then you can boil honey and add the syrup to it, which breaks apart because you have to use what they call diabox, which is a form of where you boil. The only way to release the CBD, the THC, the cannabinoid is through heat. So that's one reason why we're doing heat infusions, because that's what's releasing the diabox is it's releasing the cannabinoid. So you have to heat it.
Yeah.
Or because if you're just dry hopping,
smoking and the cookies and the
Or the
extraction
tea.
of oil for other things. Yeah.
Yeah, they say when you're making edibles that, and this was something I was researching for the slight but possible eventuality that North Carolina will ever legalize.
We're legalizing tomorrow.
I know. But I live in the buckle of the Bible Belt, and they're like, evil weed, So yeah, there's that. But at some point, all these old good old boys in the legislature will retire, and at that point, things might start to change. But in any case, though, one of the things I learned was that you have to decarb the cannabis in order to, as you say, to activate it and be able to extract the things that make it worth having, Otherwise, it'd just be a kind of smelly plant, But,
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is that you just dry hop it or you put it in a muslin bag and setting it in there. Well, only if you want it to taste like it. If you want the additives that are coming out of it, you have to debox it or, as you said, decarb it, right, is what they're doing. It's a heat extraction. We're using, like I said, the pressure cooker method to infuse honey.
I never thought
we
of
also
that.
use
Now my Instant Pot's looking really interesting now.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. That product right there, you turn around and make. So let's say honey, you're buying honey at $3.25 a pound to $4 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
I go ahead and I infuse it with cannabis by using the 1/8 of a ounce to a pint jar is what I'm using, and I'm running it through the pressure cooker.
Right.
When I'm all done, I strain all that honey out and I get all the stuff out of it, and I turn around and I make honey sticks out of that. And those honey sticks sell anywhere from $5 to $10 a honey stick.
Holy crap! I'm just
right?
imagining
so
a
I
honey
went from a
stick
$25. Yeah, I went from a 25-cent honey stick to a $5 honey stick, right? By an infused CBD THC honey stick, right? So that's one reason why we started doing it that way with
amazing.
the medical.
It does, yeah.
Right? So I've got that one. Then we do what we call the green dragon method, which is where you use nitrous and you boil the weed and blast it with nitrous oxide, making it into a gel.
Oh my God.
And that's called the green dragon method. And then we do what you saw is that we work with a couple different cannabis clubs, like Neoteric Farms and stuff in Colorado, and they're doing their own extraction where we can get direct CBD and THC oils where we can infuse them like we did at the AMMA, where you see us how we infuse it into the hot honey. That way you can dilute it down with raw honey and then cool it down with your sleepy time tea formula.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's cooled down enough to drop in your yeast. Yeah. I've had a lot of people comment on that, and I've had people try it in different areas, and that's one reason why we're going to go ahead and pay to see what the gas chromatograph says, is that we've had a lot of people that after seeing us make that, a lot of people that came and tested it and tasted it are so interested in it that I definitely have to do more with it. And I've been told like the only one anybody's ever looked up that does it, that you can actually see how to make it.
Huh.
So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. So are you having multiple decarb / infusion / getting it into the honey, etc. stuff methods tested, or are you just going with the one for now?
Well, the whole system is being tested at the University of Colorado at CSU in their laboratory to see how the extraction works, to make sure the extraction is pulling out what it's pulling out. And then they take and they run it through a gas chromatograph. They'll take I think it's like 3 to 8 ounces of the liquid, and they heat it through the gas chromatograph, and then it does the spectral analysis, and it tells you like how much iron, how much hydrogen, how much oxygen, how much THC, CBD, THC4. It lists everything through it, and then even additives like what would be the derivatives of the chemical formulation for what chamomile has. So, it would list everything in it so you see a chemical analysis spectrum. Not necessarily with the plants and stuff on it, but a spectrum of like everything that would be in there that you're ingesting.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant is, I guess maybe I didn't, probably didn't say it right, but like you've got your different ways to get the goodness from the cannabis, the cannabinoids and the and the CBD and the various things that are in it that make it effective. And that gets into the honey, and you've got 2 or 3 different ways that you've messed with that. Are you having all those different methods looked at to see which one has the most effective extraction capability to get the proper amount? That's what
the
I
two
was
that
kind of
I
going
know
for.
have there's only 2 that work the best. The one with the pressure cooker works the best,
That's
and it's
a really
time
neat idea.
consuming.
Yeah.
But you're doing direct infusion. You're taking the direct flower and directly infusing it into a product. So that way it's all about strains. So even cannabis has various, like honey has buckwheat, avocado, clover, orange blossom. Cannabis has sativas, indicas, right? And each one of those variable from CDC to THC.
Right.
So extraction of those make different things into the honey. So the best extraction method we found is the direct infusion through the pressure cooking. The second best is exactly you're getting 1 gram of THC oil, and it says right on it that it's registering 25 point something percent CBD, and it's registering 72 point something THC. So I know exactly how much is inside that, and when I infuse that into a pint of honey, I know that a pint of honey is now infused with 1 gram of CBD oil that is approximately 73%.
Okay.
That's how much I'm adding directly now to a mead. So one has higher infusion because I'm using cannabis flower and a pressure cooker, and one I'm getting more precise measurements to get right down to what exactly I'm putting into the mead.
That's pretty cool. I really like that. So that leads to the next sort of obvious question. Are there particular strains of cannabis that you kind of lean towards? The reason why I ask is in my explorations of what's going to help with the pain. What I discovered was CBD has no effect on me, at least from the CBD stuff I've tried, and God knows just exactly whether it was good or not, because these days, how can you tell? Everybody and their brother seems to be selling it. But I've messed around with a bunch of different things, and while, I don't mind getting high, it's fun, at the same time, I got to work for a living, so I can't be, like sucked into a couch eating potato chips all day long. That's never going to work. So, I'm looking for something that I was looking for something that would help alleviate the pain, and at the same time not mess with my head to the point where I couldn't function, where I couldn't be effective in my job. And what I discovered was that a 1-to-1 CBD to THC seemed to be kind of the place so far that I've found. I continue my explorations. But that's why I was just kind of wondering, there's indica, there's sativa, there's the hybrids. Where do you find yourself kind of landing in the various types?
The most medication that we're finding out is coming from the sativa plants,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people are going for the flavor that comes from the indica plants. There's a gentleman, we worked with him. He's in New York right now, and he's actually making the Green Dragon drinks of the infusion of using the nitrous drinks. I think you can even look up nitrous cannabis drinks. I think his name will go. In fact, we taught him, and he wrote an article for Popular Science magazine, August 17th, 2017.
Oh,
so that'll tell you exactly how we did it and everything, because we taught him. Popular Science magazine. Look up the cannabinoid infusion liquor. I swear that's where you'll find it. And that shows the Green Dragon method of doing the extraction and stuff that way. I think that indica is what they call in the couch, indica, and that's a sleeper. That's the one that makes you want to sit down with the potato chips and sit down and just kind of jello mold out in the couch.
Binge on Netflix,
how that works in a mead. You don't eat with the mead, but it is what we used in sleepy time, because it's in the, we went everything with sleepy time. We went sleepy time with hops, which is sleeping medication, chamomile or sleepy time tea, which is a medication, the CBD in the couch, right? We went with that as the formula. It was the whole thing was to make that if you were done with your day, you drank 4 ounces, you were supposed to sleep and have the best sleep of your life. Waking up refreshed and not having problems in the morning by drinking just a small amount, thinning your blood and introducing you with the CBD and the medications to help you sleep better. And that's what sleepy time was for. That was to make people feel better, make them feel more relaxed. I mean, the whole concept was to make it feel that way. And people that have tried it have said the same thing. Felt more relaxed. I didn't have to take pain medication. I was able to, when I was all done at my day, I was able to go to sleep. I felt I didn't have nervous legs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's when people using.
I
go ahead.
slept better. I find that, when I had your mead from 2016, and then the 1-to-1 stuff that I discovered in Colorado, that while, yes, it made me kind of happy and very chatty, more than usual, which is scary when I think about it. It made me happy enough to feel really outgoing, and usually in big crowds, I tend to kind of slink into a corner and not be that chatty. I'm a motor mouth 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 or 3, but you get me into a big crowd, and I kind of tend to hang out in the corner and watch. It's weird. But anyway, I discovered that it made me not have the anxiety in crowds, and it would let me sleep the night through. No tossing, no turning, no flipping around because, oh my God, my hip is waking me up because it hurts like hell. So that was exciting to find that out, because I don't want to take painkillers for the rest of my life, chemical painkillers. Okay.
No,
Medically assigned that has me peeing in a cup because they treat me like a criminal. Painkillers. How's that? Because it's all chemicals.
Well, it's Vicodin kills your liver.
That too, yeah.
Vicodin kills it, right? It makes it so you can't grow back, and your liver's regenerable, right? You can grow liver.
Yeah.
But Vicodin kills it, so it doesn't grow back. But here you can take alcohol that says it hurts your liver, but if you drink it like how I'm drinking it, moderately, every once in a while, using it as a party vessel, I'm not having the problems, and I think some of the stuff I'm taking might even clear it. If you drink cranberry juice and grape juice, it's supposed to help clear that stuff. If I'm using it in a liquor, I'm thinning my blood and I'm getting it directly there further. I'm probably not helping it, but I'm probably not helping it or hurting it either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just and that flies right to the whole everything in moderation thing too. Don't get too carried away. But yeah, I mean,
don't be slamming the sleepy time medication mead. You're gonna sleep.
Yeah, a
right?
lot.
Yeah.
If you slam a don't be. Don't,
So,
he
so
says
you
it's
should
not
have
going to do anything.
7 a week at most, and not all on a Saturday night. Is that what you're
Yeah.
Yeah, do it all on a Saturday night and call me Monday.
saying?
Right, because you're going to sleep all day Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's happened. That's how we knew about 3 to 4 ounces. Because we started out, we were doing an 8-ounce round. Well, it was making the gentleman Parkinson's disease sleep right away. And we were looking for something that he could use, not to get drunk, but like, let's say like at 9 o'clock, you start stuttering and you're downtown and you're walking and you're having problems and all of a sudden you're shaking out of control and you sit down and you open your flask and you take a couple pulls. In about 10 minutes, you start to feel a little bit better. 20 minutes later, you're up and you're walking. In 30 minutes, all of a sudden, I don't have the shakes anymore. I don't have the stuttering problem. I'm able to function to where I can get home, and this is going to last for me for the next probably 2 hours to where I'm doing okay. All right? That's what we were looking for. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for like, man, my stomach hurts a little bit today. I probably shouldn't drink that dairy product. I'm lactose intolerant. I shouldn't have did that. But I know if I have this strawberry and chocolate mint mead or this elderflower with heather flower mead, it's going to help me pass this out of my system a little bit quicker and get it out of me. And it's going to help because it's in my blood, get it right in there and help me pass it out. And that's what I'm looking for. Because if I want to drink mead, man, I'm going to be drinking good clover mead or a peach Bellini or something like that. But if I'm looking for a medicated mead, I'm looking for a result. And the only way I know how to get results is rat test people, have a mead party.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like that, but we have a mead party and we document and I have people write down things and it's the only way I know how to do it right now. I'm small time. Like I said, it took us a little while to save us enough money to send it to 2 different clinics. We're sending it to Oregon and Colorado State, and I'm looking for analyticals because I have a product and I'm going to get it out there. And if it's what I'm saying it is, it's going to be worth a lot to a lot of people. It's going to help people, and that's what I want to do. It's just like helping the kids get a job. I want you help your fellow man. It'll be my opportunity to help my fellow man with something that I know I can do. All right?
Did you say you
I'm
had
not a
something
NASA
good for
guy.
restless leg?
What?
Yes.
What? Can you just go back to that a little bit?
I'd have to look up all the stuff, but I have restless leg syndrome, right? And I'm using chamomile, and I'm also using heather, and I'm also using yarrow in a mix.
Okay.
And I know those are in there. I'd have to look at my whole recipe, but that's helping me with restless leg syndrome.
Okay.
I don't know all the derivatives for it.
I expect we can't buy your stuff over here in Australia, and so I'd personally be keen on that. I'd like to have a chat to you about that if you're feeling generous enough to share your recipes or anything.
Oh, I'm always I'll look it up, right, and I'll post it on Got Mead. Not a problem. The whole object, you're supposed to share your information, right? If you want to pay for it, you'll buy my mead and you'll drink it and you'll see how I make it, right? If you want to try it, the object's for. What if you make with my idea, you make a product that's stupendous and you write a book and you say, where I learned it from was this fat, bald beekeeper, right? And that would be enough for me, right? Because
in the credits from the fat, bald.
Yeah,
where'd you get this?
Because I would know who it was.
Guy. Yeah, he was on the show with this fat old chick.
Yeah, well, at least we knew who they were talking about. Right. I don't care if anybody else knew, but I knew.
Hey, I own it. No worries. I have fun anyway. So yeah, I think it's cool. Are you thinking that once you get this nailed and you've got your chemical diagnosis, as it were, of what is actually in this and all of that, and you get to go pro, are you planning to just do this in state, or are you going to try to reach out to other states that where cannabis and other such meads are acceptable?
We're gonna reach out anywhere. I would like to work. There's a gentleman that was at the MMA that has a meadery, I think he said in Georgia, that they were moving to Oregon. That I would like to talk to, because Oregon's a place that's legalized it.
Yep.
And that'd be a good place to move. I think they're going to legalize it huge in Ohio. So if I could get in with somebody, I could probably get something going on the East, West Coast, and right there in Colorado. And we could expand it and go across the country where people could actually come to a state, to a location, and use it. That, you know, I'm not looking at making it in Wyoming. Wyoming's a Mormon state, and there's never going to be any legalization for it here. So I'd have to move to a state that would be legal. So I've got 4 years. I got one kid that I have to get out of high school. And then after that, we're looking to move. We're going to take our information and we're going to help. We're going to try to get it. And if I even talked to my dad, he's the one that's kind of like sponsoring all me to do all this and backs me, that if a meadery says, hey, would you come in and make us a batch? And this is what it would take and cost and what we'd sell it. That's what we'll do. Right. Because it's expensive. You saw when we made it at the MMA, right? That batch was $400 to $500 to make a gallon.
Wow. Well,
right?
you know,
right?
medicine is expensive, and you know, like they were saying, I was listening to a well, actually, it was a book on tape, but the guy was doing a discourse on creating a new medication, creating a new drug, and talking about the research and testing costs that go into, you know, something that ultimately ends up becoming a drug, but all the stuff that happens before that nobody ever sees, and then they grouse about how expensive it is. Now, that's not to say that there aren't companies that are gouging. There are, but you know, people don't stop to think that on the, you know, on a national scale with a big pharmaceutical, you're looking at literally like close to $1 billion just to bring it to market. So, you know, I mean, obviously you're not going to spend $1 billion, but you're still going to spend a buttload of money getting this done and getting
we're already spending loads of money making it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
right?
You know, I mean, this isn't going to be
right,
priced
Manuka
like
honey
buying
was
a bottle
costing
of bee nectar at the store. It's going to be different.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's going to be exotic. This is an exotic. Mead's an exotic drink anyway, and should be held at that standard. That's just my opinion, and I think that when I'm getting Manuka honey at $60 a pound, that's grade 20, and I need, you know, a pound and a half of that, I'm already at $120 just for the honey for a gallon. If I'm using that raw, and then if I'm going ahead and I'm going to add the CBD and cannabis, let's figure it at about $100 a gram per drab. Right, we're talking $300 to $400, and I haven't even put anything in it yet. Haven't added any ingredients other than just the honey and the cannabis.
Yeah.
We haven't added any water, and it depends if we're using juices or waters or extracts or elixirs. Right, the price varies all the way up from that. So, it is one of the most expensive meads you'll ever make. Yeah. But for an exotic, if you want an exotic drink, break that out at a party.
Yeah.
People are going to go, well, where do you get it? And you say, I'm going to tell you right now, there's only one place I know is the underground meadery. Right? The guy travels to places that you're allowed to do it, and he helps you make it. That's the only way. Right? And that's who I am, is the underground meadery. And we go and we do parties and weddings, and hell, I've been doing it since 2003. Huh. That's how I've been getting my meads out, is I'm a friar. I marry people.
Oh.
And for $5,000, we do your wedding. But with the wedding, we supply all the booze.
Boy, that would have been
right. So I marry you, you get a big pig.
That would have been far more exciting than my Lutheran church and Knights of Columbus hall for the reception wedding was. I'm just trying to imagine all my cousins on that. Yeah, I just trying to imagine all my cousins after drinking your mead. That would have been amusing as hell. As it was, my auntie broke her collarbone, and a cousin of mine got in a fight in the parking lot. So what would that have been like if there'd been, I don't know, weed mead?
A bunch of sleepy people in the parking lot eating pizza.
Eating pizza, yeah, exactly. Staying up half the night and binging on whatever, on reruns of, something. We didn't have Netflix then.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo, yeah, there you go.
Scooby Snacks.
We got a question from Gosha on the live chat, and he was asking, are there some basic recommendations that you'd recommend for a cannabis mescaline?
Cannabis mescaline.
Yeah.
That is the he needs to read the popular science. It's going to read. That's exactly how the guy extracts it, the same way.
Okay, so that's the
exact
green
same way
dragon?
to do it. Yeah.
Okay, I linked
Yeah.
that
It's
in
called
the
the
live
green
chat.
dragon extract.
Okay, I linked the article in the chat, and it's going to be it's on the show page too. So.
Yeah. I think that's what he's looking for is if he wants to do it and put it into like an agave and make a tequila, right? If that's what he's looking to do and make a distillate, yeah, yep, that's the same. He's doing the same thing, right? Is he because it doesn't use honey, you can use the nitrous boil with the cannabis and use it directly into any elixir and make any kind of cocktail with it.
Okay, no,
If
he's
that's what he wants
talking
to
about
do.
making like a mead with spices and herbs, methylene. So I think he was just wondering if there was
Oh, a
anything that
methylene.
yeah, methylene. So I was just thinking he was wondering if there's anything different that you would do for that as opposed to like, say, a melomel or, other type of mead.
No, I think my like I said, you have to do the infusion process first, and then with the infusion process, you're always going to get that taste, no matter what. You'll never get that taste out of it unless you make a super sweet, right? And that'd be the only way to get that taste out. But to do it, you have to. It's like let's do a gallon batch, right? So if we take 1.5 pounds of honey and we boil it, and as the cooling process starts to boil down, we add a gram of CBD oil and a gram of THC oil to it. And we swirl it all up, mix it, shake it up, put on some oven mitts, put the lid back on the honey, shake it back up and get it all mixed up. Now we've infused the oils into the honey. They've broken down and they've dissolved into the honey. I'll pour that honey into a gallon jug. Now I have a honey that is infused in my gallon jug. I'll pour another 1.5 pounds of honey on top of that of raw honey and shake it. By that time, it's cooled down enough to where if it's under 120 degrees, I do not lose the enzymes from my raw honey. That way I keep all the raw enzymes, and now I've mixed them both together, and I have 3 pounds of honey that's been infused. We want to go ahead, and I get a blood orange, and I cut that blood orange up, and I juice it all up, and I'd use the rind and everything, and I put it in that jug, and I'd go ahead and I dry hop it with about 2 grams of like a Fugel hops, and put that in there, and I'd put a cinnamon stick in there and fill that up with water and give it a good shake. And I tell you what, you're going to have a good mead. It's going to be an orange cinnamon spice mead, and you're going to have that hoppy cannabis aftertaste towards the end. I think it's going to be really nice for you.
That's really interesting.
Just like so you'll have like a cinnamon spice orange, like an orange spice tea at the beginning, and then you'll have the bitterness and the hop and the cannabis taste towards the end and the aftermath. Because that's what the dry hopping does.
Yeah.
So then what you're doing
amazing.
What's that?
That's one of my favorite smelling hops. I adore that one.
Oh, yeah, I grow that one. I grow that
nice.
in Cascade. Those are my 2 favorite hops.
Yeah, I like the Saz as well, but the Fuggles I think is the best smelling one I've ever encountered.
I'm a Citra hop gal.
But I hopefully have him try that. Here's the thing though. Remember, if you're doing it in a state that's illegal, I'm not recommending and I'm not endorsing you to do or break the law.
Absolutely.
So I want to throw that out. There. I go all the way. I live in Wyoming, but I drive every week to Colorado, sometimes twice a week. And I do a lot of work at a place called Neoteric Farms in Colorado and Floppy Hat Farms. They're producers of cannabinoids and stuff, and they produce natural green products and stuff for restaurants and stuff, and that's why I use them. So I go to Colorado where I'm able to do it legally, all right? Because I don't want to break the law either, because I have a product that I don't want to be sitting in jail and never be able to get out. So I'm not breaking the law either, and I don't recommend anybody else do it either.
Yeah, no, that's it. For those of you that are listening, either live or downloaded, don't play this crap because it's not legal in some places. So, just think about that. What you do is up to you, but we're saying that it is illegal in some places, and that's your disclaimer for the day.
We're illegal tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're illegal tomorrow.
Oh, hush you.
Nice. See, that's the whole deal. Is it gives an opportunity for people to try something new. In fact, I just finished off my glass of this caramel macadamia nut, and I'm going to try some bubble gum that we made. My son's the candy guy, so we took Dum suckers, grinded them up in a coffee grinder, put them in a batch of mead, and we've got bubblegum mead.
Oh, wow.
We use bubblegum Dum suckers to make bubblegum mead. So I'm going to try that here shortly. It's bubblegummy. Like I said, I don't think it's something you'd be slamming or drinking on a regular basis, but like I said, you set that on a table and it has a nice little pink color to it. And I go, what is that? And you go, it's bubblegum. You know, it's something people like to try, just a little taste, something kind of neat. Think outside the box. The cannabis gives something people to try outside the box. Try something outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what you're going to get until you give it a shot. I've not been a big fan of the candy meads myself, but that, again, personal choice. That's just my personal taste. But
yeah, you really didn't like that cherry ripe mead, I remember.
Oh, that was terrible.
Sure.
That was just awful. Oh my gosh, she should give it all to me and I'll dispose of it properly.
Uh-huh.
But she did throw cherry ripe candy bars in there. I'm talking about the I know people who make meads like using Jolly Ranchers. The Jolly Rancher mead's a popular one with people that are messing around. And me personally, just never really. I just rather eat the Jolly Rancher, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just my personal taste. Now that cherry ripe like mead that she made was terrible, just terrible. I wish I'd been able to bring a whole case of it home so I could have shared it with a lot of other people. As it is, I'm saving that bottle and bringing it with me next year to the Mazer. So.
Yeah, I would.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever really had a bad mead?
Mead?
Now, I know there's some meads that taste bad.
Oh no, yeah, no.
Have you had a
No.
mead that you thought was...
I actually like the beet mead, believe it or not. And I'm kind of coming around to the idea of beets in general because they had beets on hamburgers in Australia. Weird, but tasty. I was like eating a hamburger going, is this a beet? And he's like, yeah, of course it is. And I'm going, okay. So I ate it, and it was good. But yes, I've had some really
Egg
awful...
beets and...
Yeah, I have had some seriously awful meads. Yes, I have. Some of them were mine, you know. So, yeah, I've had some really bad meads that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and then I've had some really amazing ones too. You know, you just never know until you try.
Right, that's what I tell people. They say, well, I had a mead that didn't taste good. I said, maybe to your palate. Maybe it wasn't to your palate. But I've made meads that taste bad, but they turned out exactly what they were supposed to be. They didn't taste good, but they were supposed to be exactly what the recipe was. I tried one that's from the White House cookbook, and it has eggs in it. And it did turn out. It turned out just how it's supposed to. But it was something I probably wouldn't make again. And that was in the White House cookbook. So kind of shows you that maybe they don't even got good taste in the White House. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Everyone's got different taste.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as long as it tastes the way you think it should, that's a different thing. You know, whether you personally like that flavor or not, that's a between you and the flavor thing. But if it comes out the way you intended it to come out and it tastes the way you figured it should taste, then it sounds like it was done properly to get that taste. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I remember the bacon mead, the revolution that came around a while back, and a few people made it well and said it tasted exactly the way we ordered it to, and yeah, we're never doing it again.
Yeah. Like my
I made a great smoked bacon mead, and I tell you what, it turned out exactly what it was supposed to, and it tasted just like someone drinking liquid smoke.
Yeah.
So
that wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, it was terrible, and it was exactly what it was. And the one guy drank it, and he goes, "Man, it tastes just like smoked bacon." I'm going, dude, it tastes like liquid smoke. Is what it tastes like.
Which is just nasty stuff, even when you put it on things. To me, you know, I mean, I just. I have used it in marinades from time to time, but I won't like put it on food. I may use a little bit to add a touch to a marinade, but that's about the extent of it. You know? I can make a small bottle of liquid smoke last about 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know, but I made a habanero passion mead that won the county fair and then the Wyoming State Fair, and it was made from a barbecue sauce, habanero passion fruit barbecue sauce, and it was freaking awesome. And it was made from, and I wish I could find that barbecue sauce again because I'd make another batch of it because it was phenomenal. Won me 2 ribbons, and it was made from a barbecue sauce, so I can't complain.
Hey, well, John Oppegaard at Oppegaard Meadery over in Washington, he made a taco mead, and everybody was like, "What?" when he made it, and yet when he brought it out and people started tasting it, that stuff totally sold out like in 2 days. I mean, it was just gone, and it was a savory mead.
Is that the one that we had here?
I don't think
I've had the opportunity. That cilantro and lime and
no, not that one. No. You mean the one I brought with me? No.
Okay.
I never got any of the taco meat. It disappeared too quick, and I dithered too long, going, do I really want a taco meat before, and then it was gone. So. But
that sounds cool.
Yeah,
that sounds really cool.
Yeah, and it was really brave. It was a really brave undertaking. And a savory mead is a huge risk, especially on a commercial level. I mean, you've got. I mean, when you're doing it personal, you got money tied up in it, but then the money's gone. And you're like, oh, okay, well that didn't work. That sucks, and I hate that I had to dump it out or whatever. But if you're doing it professionally, that can make the difference between making it and not making it, as a business. So it's a little scarier at that level. But he totally pulled it off, and I mean, there was a lot of really positive commentary around it.
That's super cool.
And you've got the whole
I like it.
That mead is meant to be sweet,
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's
mead doesn't have to be sweet. That's for damn sure. Especially after making medicated mead, they're dry, and some of them are very harsh. And the one guy says, "Man, I can taste alcohol." And I go, "Well, it's because it's 22%." I said, "That's what thins your blood and gets that medication right in there." He goes, "How much of this you drink?" And I said, "Don't drink much."
Yeah,
it's gonna put you down, son.
Yeah, that's very true. I really like your idea for using the cannabis in a way that gives that hop-like character, and instead of that green leafy flavor that so often comes out in in an edible or drinkable product with cannabis in it. That was one of the things that I've always wondered about, because and Hamish and I actually talked about that a little bit before the show started, is that most products that you see outside of things that you smoke for cannabis products have this very distinctive earthy leafy flavor this green flavor that is kind of negative for a lot of people. It really takes away from whatever it's in,
The sleepy time medication, we made it a year before. We took it to the MMA event. We made it there at the MMA, so everybody got to taste it after a year. We made it in front of everybody. We turned around a year later and entered it in the Mazer and won the dry division experimental with it.
Oh, cool.
And
I didn't know that.
Notes,
yeah, I didn't either.
the notes that came back for it were that the slight aromas and the slight hints of cannabis were excellent, not overpowering, and very elegant. So, dry hopping and doing stuff like that does a big difference in the bitterness and flavoring of things. I'm not a big person that cooks hops or cooks the cannabis in other than the infusion part. But we took a Mazer, the first place Mazer for dry experimental with the Sleepy Time medication mead last year. And that was the same mead that we made in front of everybody at the MMA.
Nice.
That was the one we made. We entered.
That is cool.
There's no discrepancies on that mead. We made it in front of 70 of the world's largest mead makers at the MMA, and then turn around and won a cup with the next year. That's how good that recipe was that you guys saw.
That's pretty cool.
That was the thing that I thought was cool.
Yeah. Well, and
we made it in front of everybody.
Yeah, when you made it in front of anybody, brought it back a year later, and took a medal at the Mazer with it. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody listening to this show knows it's not. You can't just walk into the Mazer and walk out with a medal. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. I've known people that have entered for years and have never won a cup.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and I know amazing mead makers that, make and the meads that they enter are stunning, but somebody else was in there that was just a little bit more stunning, and
Yeah.
so people who have got 50 point meads are getting beat out by people that have, if there was a beyond 50, would have gotten 51 or 56 or something like that, and yeah, it's a tough haul, so that says something. That says a lot.
Oh, thank you. And well, like I said, the coolest part about it is that they got to see us make it. It wasn't like there was anything trickery. There was everything was right there, and it was all completely legitimate of using the cannabis live in Colorado.
That's cool. I'm excited to see where you take this, especially and I don't know if you heard about it, but those who announce such things at the government came out and said that they're working on a national change in the laws on marijuana, which apparently it's going to be something along the lines of federally legal for medical purposes, and then up to the states for personal use. So, that's actually a pretty good compromise, because right now it's all with the states.
I guess I'll have to sleep with my governor.
There's something, yeah, but yeah, tell your governor,
That's one way to do it.
to vote legalize, yeah. But I think it would be awesome if they legalized it nationally for medical, and once they do that, the rest will happen naturally in time. But I think it's a great idea, because that opens up a whole capability there to really start exploring what it is good for, from a medical perspective, because right now they're really restricted. So that would change the game completely.
Oh, it would change more than the game. It would provide work.
Yeah, it would.
Right now in Colorado, man, the workload is tremendous with the people in the cannabis companies, to specialized waters, to people that work clipping, to the people who work production of making extracts, to edibles. If they legalize it medically, you're going to have clinics. You're going to have a whole new medical field, right, of people that are going to be studying it more. To you're going to have clinics designed specially for it, just like you have people that are foot and knee doctors, eyes, nose, and throat. You're going to have a specialized doctor that deals in pain for cannabis, or eating regimens from cannabis. It's going to build a whole new job sequence. Not to mention, if I make it happen, I'll have to hire people for the meadery, and we'll have to grow it, and we'll have to harvest it, and that's employment. I'm looking at it a bigger thing, just like when I teach the kids. I'm looking at a bigger picture. I'm looking at jobs. I'm looking at fulfillment of life. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
It's more than just making mead to me. There's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I agree, and you're right. It's gonna open up a whole new industry that has never existed before, and that means work for people, possibly doing something that they enjoy a lot more than whatever it is that they're doing now or not doing.
Well, do you remember when they had all the engineers for the government that built bridges?
Mm-hmm.
You have a building that would have like 75 to 100 engineers designing it, and then AutoCAD came out, and you needed one guy.
Yeah.
So all those people were gone. I think this is going to bring back jobs. I think we've been waiting for jobs. We've been waiting for a revolution. Canada has found out that, man, the job market is booming. And Canada saw what happened in Washington and Colorado and said, if we legalize it, look what they do in those small things. Think what our country can do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now people are flying in. People from the United States are going to Canada. Iceland's going in there. People from China are flying in there because it's legal, and they're trying it. And it's bigger than just flying into Colorado. You can fly anywhere in Canada and try it. So, their tourism is booming. They're making money.
Yeah.
So, I see big money.
We've had medical marijuana clinics around for quite some time. The recreational ones, I'm not sure how they're setting that up. Actually, I don't know where you're actually supposed to get the stuff from, but you have to buy it legally through the government. You can't just, it's not a free trade. You can buy it and sell it from anyone. But I think
no, in Colorado it's not that way. In Colorado, you have to go through the marijuana division of I forget it's a big long word. Each plant has to have an identification card with it. Each plant has to come from a clone from the local cloning department from Colorado. right? So there's only like 5 varieties in Colorado. And then when people say they got different strains, it's them trying to mix the strains from cloning and grafting, because you can't make plants go to seed, because then it would make seed. And then if the seed got away, all the plants in Colorado would be seed. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like a big regulatory, right? It's a huge regulatory thing. When we went, the picture you see there with me with the cannabis plants was at one of the largest growing facilities in Colorado. I had to get fingerprinted. I had to go through a background check. We had to have photo IDs made a month in advance.
I mean, it was like going to the Federal Reserve.
I tell you what, it was like going to go visit your brother in jail.
Yeah.
Your pockets were empty and everything you go through. I mean, it was just like going to visit somebody in jail. When it was all said and done, you got all your stuff back and then you left. And it was a huge, interesting experience to go watch. You know, it went from your buddy that used to grow a couple plants in his closet to when I walked through and it was like Budweiser making marijuana. I mean, that's how this was. It was like all commercial, all on mills, rollers, rolling the plants across, different lighting segments. It was incredible just to see and how much money and electricity goes in to grow marijuana. The facility that we were at grew 70,000 pounds of marijuana, and that was one of 3 facilities, and they can't meet the demand. So that just tells you how much marijuana people smoke in Colorado alone.
Yeah, no kidding. We've got another question that I almost missed that actually came in through the Spreaker app that I use to run the show. He's asking, what temperature did you use in pressure cooking the cannabis in the honey? His name's Todd.
It's 15 pounds at 90 minutes.
Okay. No, I'm gonna have
That's
to
exactly what I'm doing.
15 pounds at 90 minutes. I'm going to have to see if I can translate that to Instant Pot.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm using. I'm using 15 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes, and I'm using a quart jar, which is 3 pounds of honey to an eighth of marijuana is what I'm using. And I'm using it at 15 pounds for 90 minutes in a pressure cooker for the Infusing variant.
Okay. Good. Thank you. That is just, yeah. I'm fascinated with this whole thing because I think it's, well, you know, I mean, aside from the fact that I find the stuff useful, you know, from a medical perspective, I just think it's got there's just so many different things that can go on there, you know?
Oh, I'm hoping that it goes big. We're entering another one in the Mazer next year. I won't say anything more than that, but we're going to try to do another one and see how it turns out and stuff. But I'm enjoying this. This has brought a new flair. You know, like I said, I've been making meats since 1996, on and off. And over the last 10 years, I've gotten it really heavy. And in the last 5 years, I've gotten a new branch of something that's nobody else is doing. I mean, I haven't heard a lot of people doing this. I've heard a lot of people asking about it. And this has brought a whole new flair. I got a lot of people calling me. I got people asking me about how to do it. How do you know that it's in there? Well, without the gas chromatograph, I guess I can't tell you that it's in there unless you try it. You tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm at, right? I mean, that's where I'm at right now. It's working, right? But people don't know why it's working, and I need that spectral analysis to prove a lot of things.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to find out. You'll have to, if you're willing, I'd be curious to know when you do find out, you know, where you ended up with effectiveness level, because I'm really curious. I find the whole industry of converting the cannabis into edible products as opposed to smoking it to be just an interesting science, because there is a whole thing. There's so much they don't know yet about how all this works chemically and interacts, and, you know, and what they need to do to get different effects. Like if you're going more for pain reduction as opposed to couch sucking, you know. That's what they call it, as a couch suck weed. I saw that word at one of the clinics. Yeah, it was at one of the pot shops in Colorado, and I about died laughing, standing there in front of the counter, and they're like, "No, totally, that's what it's called." And I'm like, "Okay." Yeah,
they call it indica in the couch.
Yeah, and a couch, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I had done my homework before I went in there to get an idea of what I thought I was looking for, and then armed with that, was able to talk to the bud tenders and say, okay, this is the effect I'm going for. I'm trying to. That's what they call themselves. I'm trying to, I'm trying to get pain reduction, and I'd love one of those, a clarity high. The one where you're not all screwed up, but where it just like brightens you up and you've got lots of energy and tons of focus, because I can get so much done when I can
Those are cool.
when I can overcome my squirrel tendencies. Oh my God, I get so much more done. Because the rest of the time it's like typity, 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 ooh, squirrel, and it screws me all up. So, you know, I'm looking for something
I
that's
think
gonna,
that's
that's gonna
funny.
help me like that. Yeah, I mean, I have generalized anxiety disorder, and although I've never gone in to check, I think I may have a little bit of ADHD. I have trouble staying on track for long periods of time. Other times I'm like monofocused, but most of the time I'm like in 12 different directions. So, something that can help me with that would be wonderful, and not have to take something that turns me into a zombie would be even better.
I just walk into them and tell them I want something that's going to kick me in the back of the face and creep up on me and put me down for about 3 hours.
Yeah, well, there's that kind too.
Because
And then you should.
I don't sleep.
Oh gosh, you're not a
So
sleeping person. Okay.
that's one reason why we made the first round of Sleepy Time.
Ah.
Right now, people really know why we were going through it. Is I'm an insomniac and a manic, so I don't ever sleep. Getting 3 to 4 hours of sleep a day is what I get, and so that's one reason why I investigated it, and that's why I was making it, was for personal initiative.
Hey, they say a personal need can be the biggest driver to discovering something amazing. So,
Yeah, fair
Well,
enough.
it's worked for me and it's worked for other people. And like I said, I'm glad you tried it. That's like all outside biased opinion of somebody that's even tried different types of medication for their problem, has tried CBD at a different location, and then tried it the way I made it. And I was your input was very nice, and my father was very happy that we were able to do that.
ah, cool. Well, I really appreciated your, letting me try it. That was pretty awesome. And it was it helped because I was so stressed that day. Oh my God. I was coming apart at the seams. I was so stressed. So that made a huge difference for
Man, it was
me.
a beautiful event.
It really came together well. Yeah, I was pleased. But at the same time, you spend the whole time going, something's going to go wrong. The other shoe's going to drop any second now. I know it is, and that's what I did all day long. So.
Oh man, the filming went great. People were in and out. The film guy was able to adjust. People set up and were in and out very fast. There was no waiting. It went very well. I was very pleased with the organization, and I was very pleased with the booths and stuff, with the people with their books that you could buy and read, and your shirts and stuff, and well organized. I thought it was very nice.
Yeah, it came together well. I'm happy with it. It's hopefully going to continue to get better. I mean, we've got a really good team of people this year. So, and they're doing a great job on the behind the scenes stuff. And we had a fantastic group of volunteers last year. So, yeah, I think it's going to get better. And with any luck this coming year, I won't be running around like a chicken with my head cut off, losing my shit all day long like I was before. Bjorn just popped up, Jaden just popped up and said, ask about Grendel's tears. Are you that, Michaell Jordan? That's what he's asking.
I am.
Aha!
I am the guy that makes Grendel tears.
Okay, so
that's me. Yeah.
What is Grendel tears?
Grendel's tears. It's based on a mythological beast called Grendel.
Well, I know what the Grendel
and
is. I'm just wondering why
From
he's
Bell.
crying.
It's our salted. Well, we made a salted caramel nut roll mead, and when it was all said and done, we added real gold flakes to it. So when you looked at it, the gold flakes floated around in it, and that was the tears of Grendel, salty caramel gold.
Good Lord.
And we made we made it for an individual. His name was Jack Spearco down in Texas. He had an event. He says, I'd like you to come. I'd like you to show us your talent. Can you make me a designer mead just for me? And I said, yeah, but when I do stuff like that, it's expensive. And he goes, all right, I'd like to have one. So we came up with Grendel's Tears, and he said it was really good. And he says he'd like other people to try it after he got it. So we made it for him. He gave it out at an event, and we had a big party. And then after that, we make it for other people that want it. But it has, we add gold flakes to it, and it's a salted caramel nut roll with gold flakes in it. So it's the tears of a god.
Oh my
The
gosh.
salty tears of a god.
Yeah, I mean, the gold flakes are cool, but salted caramel nut rolls what got me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really cool, though, and I love the name. It's a good name.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. We encapsulated the tears of a god, the gold tears, and it tastes like salt. Yeah.
Jaden's going, score! That sounds so fantastic.
Well, it's a pretty big hit. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm surprised somebody knows about that. That's funny. Yeah, that I do designer meads. Like I said, we do weddings and stuff, and that we do specialized things for people. That's my talent, is that I do things for people on a specialized basis. That's how we got into the Sleepy Time Mead. That's how I do weddings. That's how we do events. The specialization.
That's cool.
Hmm.
I remember seeing something somewhere along the line on Facebook about that. Now that now that you've described it, and I remember thinking,
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't think there's that many people who've put gold in mead, so I think I recall it also.
Yeah, that is really neat.
Yeah,
I know Jaden.
like I said, I try to do different stuff.
I know Jaden's going to be after you now for the recipe.
Oh, we'll have to post it.
Okay, cool.
All right, I'll get you information. I'm a free share guy. I don't have anything to hide. Right? I think everybody should have the opportunity to win. The only way to win is to show people how to do it.
Yeah, very true.
If the guy that says, that fat beekeeper, Michaell Jordan taught me that, right? That's all I need from that is somebody, that acknowledges that I have input, that I try to do what I can for other people, and I shared it. I'm glad that you're using it. I'm glad you're sharing it with other people, and that's the best part about it.
Yeah, so Jaden's very thrilled by the idea that you might share that recipe with him, but he also asks, with the edible gold leaf, do you have any opinion on how it affects digestion or health or anything like that, or is it just completely inert?
It's heavy on your stomach, right? You're ingesting a metal. No, gold flake. You have a lot of liquors. You have Goldschlager, and it's a hard liquor with gold in it. You can go to different restaurants, and they wrap. There's a restaurant in Denver that we go to, and they wrap some sushi in some gold flake. And I forget what the name of it is, but it's a very, very small portions of blowfish, and it's exotic and all kinds of stuff, and they wrap it up in gold flake. What does it do to you? I don't really know, other than, small increments of gold throughout time in Egyptian culture was good for your body, and they felt that it enabled you to be more powerful. Does it or not? I don't know any scientific proof for it, but that's as the medieval metaphysical thing. The Egyptian gods did eat gold. Was it doing the mead?
I believe it has zero effect, or basically the Goldschlager wouldn't be legal.
Well, it'd give you
here's how I
sparkly poo,
It's just really pretty. To me, it looks really pretty to look at. And when you talk about sparkly poo, there's a mead out right now that a person's added purple glitter to, and when you swirl it around, it looks right. So I have seen that, and I have seen glitter. It was just something that made it look nice to go with the name, right? Grindel's tears. The tears were caught. You could see them. They were gold flakes inside there, and it gave that. Right, it all went with the name. It's like we serve meads. We serve them. You just don't pour a glass of mead. It's like our peach Bellini. You take and you dip the rim of the glass in honey, and then you dip it in powdered honey, and then you pour the peach Bellini in it, and then you put a little shot of triple sec on the top of it and spin it. Super awesome drink. We make a s'mores. We take and dip the rim of the glass in cinnamon honey, and then we take a biscotti stick, put it in there, and then you pour the s'mores mead in the glass, put a marshmallow on the top of the biscotti stick, and drop a little bit of 151 on the biscotti stick and light it. and you hand it out, and it's a flaming s'mores drink.
Oh, that's fun.
So it's not only about making a good mead to drink. Presentation and serving it has a lot to do with something. We're making a drink of the gods. I'm not serving it to anybody. I'm serving it to people that are going to enjoy a fantastic drink. You don't drink a bottle of mead. You have 2 or 3 glasses if you're lucky. And it's one of those things I try to make exotic. So we even do presentations with mints and flaming drinks and stuff to make the meads presentable when we do these weddings and stuff to encapsulate the feeling of something exotic.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm reminded, Vicky, of the way Michaell did it
I was
when
just
you were over
thinking
here,
that.
the flaming shrubbery and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a drink. They were making drinks with Steve's mead. Excuse me. And they had this one called the Flaming Shrubbery, which of course my mind immediately translated to a Monty Python voice for the Knights of Knee. But so it was Flaming Shrubbery.
It's a shrubbery.
Shrubbery. And it was just hilarious. And they had a little stick of plant life in there that we're all like picking at it and smelling it and trying to figure out what it was. It wasn't rosemary. It was I don't know what it was, but they lit it on fire when they brought the drink out, and it was in this really cool opaque pottery looking goblet, but not a big goblet, just like a small one, almost like a wine glass, but it looked like it was made from pottery. And so the presentation was really cool, and so it was just really neat. The whole meal was really a huge presentation, from the wench to the let's roll out the big cloth thing full of knives, pick your knife, and it was just awesome.
Oh, nice. Yeah. See, I think that's the one thing that people miss. Yeah, you can make meads and you can taste some good meads, but how are you serving them?
Mm-hmm.
Are you serving them with a meal? Do they go with the meal? Is it like is it a really sweet peach Bellini, right? That that's carbonated and looks good for like a cheers that you would give out at a wedding, or is it something that's thick and syrupy that I'm just going to probably use it on ice cream now because this is really great on ice cream more than it would be to drink in a glass. Those are some things to really think about, because sometimes some of my meads, because they're experimental, right, are thick, and so I'm like, well, I guess this one's pancake syrup, so we make bread pudding with it and do stuff like that with it. So I think sometimes you advance it. It's not only a drink. Sometimes it goes into more things. Don't count yourself out if it tastes bad. Sometimes it's something that you're going to use. Like I said, I make a bread pudding one now that
I like bread pudding.
It's super great. So
yeah, I went and I presented with a panel at the Tales of the Cocktail this past summer. And it's a cocktail. It's like, I guess it's the cocktail convention. I had no idea. It's not a circle that I circle in. But I got invited by Fred Minnick, who's a big bourbon writer. He's written several books about bourbon and other things too. But he wrote a book on mead and was releasing it, and asked me if I'd come speak on this panel with him with his new mead book, and then me, and with as Got Mead and representing the AMMA. And then he had a buddy of his who was a master mixologist, and what these people are a lot of the times looking for. And I got some input from Rafe at Enlightenment up in New York, and the same thing, because he does a lot of meads for cocktails, is that they're looking for something that isn't what you expect in just a mead in a glass. They want something that has characteristics that they then will turn into something else with a combination of other things, to give, to make a really cool cocktail. So it was fascinating, to learn about that from people. I just never really thought about it before that,
Sure, yeah. So if you find a good mixologist that can take your mead and turn it into a margarita,
oh yeah,
right? Next thing you know, the only place you get this type of margarita is here's Sand Springs Hotel. That's elegant, right? That people will be going all the way to a place in Nevada to try a margarita that's made with mead. So I think those things can flare up.
Yeah, well, it's getting more and more popular. We're starting to see more and more meaderies that are getting together with mixologists and having cocktails created in local pubs and and restaurants with their meads. So I think that's a character, that's a thing that's going to continue to spread, as more and more people discover mead and how flexible it is, so. But I'm getting the wave off from Hamish with the I'm over time again. This is a habit.
Only
of
a little
mine.
bit, Hamish. Only a little
Only
bit.
A little bit, yeah. he's the keeper of the timepiece. So, but man, this has been fascinating, Mike. This is really interesting. And
Well, I appreciate.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I thank you for having me on. And stuff. And I always enjoy listening to your show. I caught the one about the different yeasts and meads. I'm always about yeast. Yeast is very important, I think, in mead. So I love your program. I love meeting Hamish and you guys when I was at the MMA. You guys were funny and had a great time. So I really appreciate you guys letting me be on your program.
Oh, yeah. No,
you're welcome.
We were glad to have you on. You going to come back next spring?
I'm hoping to. I mean, that's the whole deal is to come and to meet people and to rub elbows with some people that might be able to get me into the business bigger.
There you go.
Yeah, and if you're in Colorado a lot anyway, it's not that hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions or anything, I got a Facebook account, or you can email me at abfriendlycompany, all one word, at gmail.com, and we'll get back to you as fast as we can on any kind of answering that we can get. And if you're looking for a good fryer, I'll marry you. One of my favorite things to do is make a batch of mead and pitch people up.
That's cool. Well, thanks a lot, Michael. I really appreciate it.
You bet. You guys have a blessed evening. I'm going to go ahead and run, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
Okay, so for those of you listening out there, you may or may not already know hotel reservations are now open for the Mazer Cup and the AMMA MeadCon. If you go to meadcon.net/venue, you can get your hotel reservations. Also, if you go to meadcon.net, tickets are now available for the MeadCon. So if you're planning on coming, get your tickets, because we're doing a tiered pricing method this year where the earlier you get your tickets, the cheaper they will be. So go check it out and get your tickets as soon as you can. There's a early bird price going on until November 15th, I believe it is. So go check it out, and hopefully we'll see you at the MeadCon next March. For upcoming events, we've got Boss Meadery is having a meadery jam, an open mic jam tomorrow, October 17th, yeah. And October 18th, Wild Blossom Meadery up near Chicago is having yoga at the meadery. And if I get their calendar right, they do this every Thursday. So that's kind of cool.
Is that intoxicated yoga?
I don't know. Yeah. Do we drink before, during, and after? Or before, during, or after? I don't know. It's a good question.
Wow.
Yeah. October 27th, Texas Mead Association is having the Texas Mead Fest. Also on October.
Sorry, I still can't get over the yoga. I'm thinking,
the yoga thing.
Do we have
every
a mazer
Thursday,
and a bit of downward dog or something? Or
I mean, that'd be my yoga studio if I was near Chicago. I'm telling you, because that'd be so much more interesting than the regular ones. Beats goat yoga all day long, right? Okay. October.
Brimminghorn.
Yeah. Also, October 27th, Brimminghorn Meadery is having their Fight Like a Valkyrie breast cancer benefit. So if you're anywhere near Delaware, this is the place to be on October 27th. November 3rd, Southwest Michigan Wine, Hops, and Harvest Festival. There will be beer, wine, and mead, and probably cider as well at this event. So they like their booze in,
cool.
in southern Michigan, and, well, everywhere else in Michigan, too. I should know. I grew up there. November 7th, Shuli's Cuisine and Events is having a cider and mead pairing dinner. And they have a number of different meads from different meaderies there, so that should be interesting. And then on November 17th, Boss Meadery is having a progressive dinner. So lots of stuff coming up. And as always, if you have an event and you'd like us to announce it on Got Mead, you just need to let us know. Email us at gotmead.com. Stop making us chase you down.
Sure. For the Australians, the Eltham Wine Show is coming up on the 11th of November. If you do want to enter, you can. If you're super fast still, I think you've got a day or two to get your entries in. It's already past shut off, but we're letting some late ones in this year. So get into that. Otherwise, get down on the day to the Veneto Club in Bulleen in Victoria on Sunday the 11th of November.
Cool.
That's it.
Sorry, I'm trying to talk and type at the same time. Cool. All right.
Right.
So that's what we got. I will be out of town next week, so there will be no Got Mead Live. I'm going to be running away to the House of Mouse, Disney World, and sampling the meads at Savannah Bee Company, which has a shop there. And there's also, I understand, 2, possibly 3 meads at Epcot Center. I will find them. So
Wow.
yeah. So I'm gonna go check that out, and then we'll be back October 30th. So we're just taking 1 week, and I'm trying to get somebody into that spot right now. I had a bit of a schedule shuffle up, so I'm having to move people around. So I will let you guys know as soon as I know, which will hopefully be tomorrow, that who we've got for that. So,
in other news in Australia, I have a strong rumour that there's a meadery in Perth that will hopefully be open for selling new meads in January. That's Erosion Meadery with Sean running that over there. He's doing very well. I've seen some tanks coming into his place. Yeah, that's a really good thing over here. Another big meadery in Australia, hopefully. And yeah.
okay, cool. AJ, you got anything besides Canada legalizes weed tomorrow? I envy you. Just so you know. All right, guys, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. And in the meantime, go drink some good mead.
Yeah. Good night. Have a good one, everyone.
All right, night, everyone. I think we lost AJ, or her mic lost, or something.
Apparently, everyone's lost. There's radio silence. There's no